Today we look at Job 17, 18, and 19. And chapter 17 is the second part of Job's response that began yesterday in chapter 16. And, he says, my spirit is not broken. My days are not extinct. The grave is ready for me. And then, surely there are mockers around me, and their eye dwells on their provocation. The grave is ready. And it's, death is there. And I think that's one of the things, death is always just one breath away for each and every one of us. And thankfully, we're not always aware of that. If we really dwelt on that, man, it would be, not a very gleeful picture for sure. But he says, lay down a pledge for me with yourself. Who is there that will give a pledge for me? Who would put down money for me? Who would take responsibility for me? And it's, my friends, I can't count on my friends, since you have closed their minds to understanding, and it's, it's just, again, that, you aren't really listening to what I'm saying to you. And then in verse 10, he says, you come back now, all of you, and I will not find a sensible person within you, among you. And so he's saying to these three friends, you're not doing me any good. You're not making sense. You're not listening to me. You're trying to just point out something that's wrong that isn't wrong. I haven't done anything. And then it's, my days are past, my plans are broken off, the desires of my heart, they make night into day. And it's again, more of that despair, but not only the despair of everything that's gone on in his life, but the despair of these three friends that can't hear. And this is, I think, one of the important things for so much of us too, when we're listening, talking to somebody, hearing someone share concerns and troubles, we want to find the fix. We want to offer the salvation. We want to be the one that fixes the problem. And Job is saying, you three, you are not fixing the problem. You're just making it worse, He says in verse 15, where is my hope? Who will see my hope? Who will go down to the bars of Sheol? Shall we descend together? And it's, who's going to stand up for me? This is what, who will make a pledge for me? Who will be my surety? And, the verse 3 there. And then Bildad, again in chapter 18, how long will you hunt for words? Just come right out with it and be honest, consider. And then we will speak. Why are we counted as cattle? Why are we stupid in your sight? Well, you're not listening. You're not understanding what Job is saying. You are so convinced, basically, Job is saying to you, you are so convinced that all of this calamity that has come upon my life is because of my guilt. It's because of my sin. It's because of something that I did wrong in the sight of God. And, and Job has said that to them, in so many words. And Bildad again here now in his second speech, so to speak, why do you consider us stupid? Why do you not listen to us? Why do you not listen to our wise counsel? Wise counsel. And then, verse 5, surely the light of the wicked is put out, and the flame of their fire does not shine. The light is dark in their tent, wicked. And just classifying Job there. And it's so often like those first impressions that we get. And well, these men knew Job. And how could they really know Job and be his friends and not understand, not see what's going on here? And he just goes on, with his second discourse. It's called his second speech. And it's, I think there's, each of them speak 3 times and one speaks the 4th time. So there are 10 times. And, back in the book of Genesis, Jacob had gone and he'd worked for his father-in-law to be for his preferred bride, and his father-in-law cheated him. He married the older daughter. And then he married a second daughter. And in chapter 31 of Genesis, Jacob says to Rachel and Leah, and you know that I have served your father with all my strength. Yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. But God did not permit him to harm me. And it's not so much the 10 times, but God did not permit him to harm me. And here's a kind of the same scenario with Job. I mean, God permitted Satan to do all of this devastation. And there was some harm, definitely some harm to Job with all of the sores and all of the, the head to toe covered with all of that. But he's not able to kill him. And Job is understanding that God is still there. And so this was just a little aside, that 10 times, but, he was not allowed to take his life. In chapter 19, Job responds, how long will you torment me and break me in pieces with your words? These 10 times you have cast reproach upon me. Are you not ashamed to wrong me? Are you not ashamed to speak evil of me? And so, I don't know how, he says here all of a sudden, these 10 times you have cast reproach upon me, and this is, they haven't had that many speeches back and forth, but maybe it's the different ways they've spoken out. I'm not sure what he's meaning there, and then verse 4, and even if it's true that I have erred, my error remains with me. If indeed you magnify yourselves against me and make my humiliation an argument against me, know then that God has put me in the wrong and closed his net around me. That God has done this. And in this chapter 19, when we get to verse 23, these are some words. I'm going to read these out loud. Oh, that my words were written down. Oh, that they were inscribed in a book. Oh, that with an iron pen and with lead they were engraved on a rock forever. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and at the last he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been thus destroyed, then from my flesh I shall see my God, whom I shall see on my side, and my eyes shall behold, and not another. Those are words that I kind of say at the graveside at a burial. Someone who has died. And here we have back in this Old Testament, this Job, his faithful statement of, after my death, then from my flesh I shall see my God, my Redeemer. When this life is over, God is there. God is faithful, and those who are faithful to God, God will raise up to new life, And it's, he starts out, oh, that my words were written. Oh, that they were inscribed upon a book with an iron pen and a fetter engraved upon a rock, And this is, what a statement of faith, Here's Job professing his innocence, professing his love and his faith for God in all of these things. And he says, for I know that my Redeemer lives. And a redeemer, to redeem a coupon. A coupon is a worthless piece of paper. They say right on them, value less than 1/10 of a cent. Or, there's not much value on that little coupon. But it is used to redeem us. And not to say that Jesus' life wasn't worth anything, but we are redeemed. We are the worthless piece of paper. And the Redeemer lives. And those are some important words. And if you've got your Bibles open to Job chapter 19, I'd like it if you would underline, circle, or highlight those words, from in there. It's just a powerful, powerful statement of faith, of trust in God, and of resurrection. Starting verse 23, oh, that my words were written down. My words were written by life, oh, that people could examine it. And it's just a part of the beauty, I think, of some of what we read. And, we can read through this book of Job and think there's not much good in it. Well, there's a golden nugget right there. For I know that my Redeemer lives. And at the last, after I have died, then from my flesh I shall see my God.